Growing up and watching sports in the 2010s might have been the most peak time to experience and enjoy college and professional sports. Nowadays, though, that is extremely mid and a waste of time. For a number of reasons. Alright, so in light of the recent Super Bowl and with the NBA playoffs and March Madness right around the corner, I have felt a strong calling to state my opinion that seriously watching sports and being a diehard fan for a team, or heaven forbid,
betting on Game 6 of the Finals in 2026
might be one of the biggest chud loser moves you can make, besides maybe gooning or smoking that pack all day. Now listen, as a 23-year-old guy obsessed with sports growing up, I'm not gonna lie, the 2010s decade of sports has got us all mad spoiled, and it just set the bar insanely high for what I could expect watching sports. Don't even get me started on what it was like to watch prime LeBron, Curry, Beast Mode, Brady, Kobe, OBJ, Antonio Brown, and countless other iconic NBA and FBA and NFL players. I'm telling you, bro, it was literally so peak back then, it's not even comparable to today. I did watch other sports, but basketball and football were always pretty much the biggest ones I would tune into growing up. Even though I'll pretty much only be referencing those sports, this video is referencing pretty much watching any other sport or athletic performance in general on TV. Anything from the UFC to the Olympics. But part of why I think this era of sports in the 2010s will always hold a special place in my life is probably because I was also actively pursuing
making the JV roster
at the time, and having all these sports icons to watch and model your game after just made tuning into their games all the more entertaining. I mean, not to mention, we really have been treated with some of the most iconic sports moments
of all time
throughout the 2010s. I mean, I still think about LeBron coming back 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors in 2016, Tom Brady's dynasty with the Patriots, Nick Saban's
imperial reign
on the college football playoffs, and just all around some of the craziest football and basketball games I've ever seen in my entire life were in this era.
There's a Royal in front.
On a bounce to James.
If you miss, this is sick. Put this to music. I don't think he stepped out either. That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Maybe this next generation of Zoomers will look back at this current era of sports the same way we look back at that iconic 2010 to 2020 decade of sports, but
I highly doubt that.
because they'll probably be too busy worrying about
Or farming.
and
Looks maxing.
to actually give a damn about how many points Wembanyama or SGA put up. To me, though, the vibe of the 2010s college and professional sports scene will forever remain untouched in my brain. Now listen, I'm not exactly trying to say that watching any level of sports right now makes you a chud loser. There's still plenty of entertainment to be found in keeping up with the games and who's been balling out. I mean, I certainly tune in every once in a while. Hell, Bam Adebayo just dropped
81 points the other night.
which marks the second highest single game point total.
In NBA history.
I mean, that's only behind Wilt Chamberlain, I believe. Of course, this was against the bum-ass,
Washington Wizards.
but that's neither here nor there, you know? The point is, sports today is still plenty entertaining. Like, we still got some crazy hoopers, cats like Cooper Flag and the alien himself, Wembanyama, just doing crazy stuff week to week. And I don't even know ball like that. I just know watching sports is still very entertaining sometimes. Especially if you grew up in that atmosphere and climate as a young dude and you were raised to play sports all your life. It's kind of always ingrained in your brain, like a second nature, to tune into the games and just keep up with everything in general. I know it is for me, and especially growing up with my dad who went to the University of Georgia. Ever since I can remember when I was young, we would always tune into the Georgia football games, even way before Kirby Smart was a head coach. I mean, especially after we did get him, I became an even bigger fan of the team for obvious reasons. But is it just me, or has life gotten in the way of my sports watching time? And I now find myself tuning into the games less and less often, partially out of disinterest and partially out of
Disgust.
for the whole sports betting side of things. And also partially because I think I could spend my time way more productively in about 1,001 different ways right now. And this is kind of where I get confused when I see some dudes in their 20s and 30s obsessed with their favorite sports team. Maybe it's because they got a
DraftKings parlay on the line.
or just because they grew up all their life watching their team, but it's like the biggest deal to some people if their team has a winning record this season, or better yet,
makes the playoffs.
I mean, just the way some of these mugs talk about their team, you would think they're a
General manager, coach,
or
part owner of
the organization. Talking about some, I can't believe we lost to the Seahawks, as if they had anything to do with the actual outcome of the game. And it's funny because I've actually been one of the biggest hypocrites of my own criticisms in the past, and especially when it comes to college football and wanting to see my Georgia Bulldogs get another ring. But now it's like with every year I've come to realize more and more, watching sports as a serious enthusiast or supporter of either the team or just the sport in general, it has pretty much a net negative benefit to my life. And there's literally no other reason to really tune into the game besides to lose money on a parlay or just to kick it with the boys as a means to be social and have something to talk about. Nowadays though, especially in the last year with me having to face the reality of graduating college and being an actual adult, I'm pretty much done with my whole seriously watching the game phase, and I've pretty much entirely replaced that habit with literally anything else that feels remotely more productive. And I don't know if you've also been feeling this, but every game now, if you were to watch it from start to finish, is like entirely focused around the whole sports betting industry thing and just shoving that
corporate slop
advertisement stuff
down your throat.
I mean, seeing advertisements in sports has always been unavoidable, right? But at least like a decade ago, it was like you got to see the hype trailer for the new Call of Duty or a funny and creative Doritos ad. But now instead, we're just constantly being spoon-fed Shaq, LeBron, or Kevin Hart, try to get you to
Drop a couple bands on DraftKings.
Maybe it's just me growing up and having less time in my calendar in general, which, by the way, I made a good video on
Busy maxing.
that you should definitely check out. But for me to tune into even one full game a week would be like the equivalent of wasting probably 4 to 6 hours of my life and just
throwing that
Time away.
I did some very simple calculations, and it adds up to like roughly 200 hours a year in total sports watching time that you get absolutely nothing out of if you did watch 1 4-hour game a week. I've never been a math guy, but that's a pretty conservative estimate, I feel like. And the funny thing is, I know so many people who definitely be watching more than 4 hours of sports a week. Dude, you could literally do so much shit and change your life for 200 hours out of a year. It doesn't even have to be anything major. Hell, I'd rather stare at a brick wall and just seriously contemplate and plan out my life than watch a full 4-hour corporate slop sports betting infused ball game. With the way I was raised also, I've always been taught that sports betting or just gambling in general is like the lowest of lows you can stoop down to. There are probably 1,000,001 better ways to invest your money or spend it, and gambling has never been a viable money-making method for me. I was always taught that you would never win against the house, and I just kind of thought that was common sense anyways. But with how popular it is today, and with how many ads that target young men there are, this is clearly not something that everyone knows or believes in. Similar to the whole
Gooning and
corn industry, I really think the whole sports betting thing is one of the most degenerate things you can get into. Probably besides like
mainlining fit.
and it genuinely has the potential to absolutely ruin your life if you're not careful or just lack impulse control. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the topic. Let me know if you still think watching sports seriously as a grown-ass man is still appropriate in 2026. Love y'all, and I'll see you in the next one.